That's almost half of the population of Afghanistan are under the age of 15, which means half of Afghanistan are children. Now you think about that. That's why it has the largest population of orphans around the world. Now, it means that 75% of the population, we said they're under the age of 30, 74%. That means 3/4 of the country have never experienced a day of peace. 3/4 of the country, of the population, have never experienced a day of peace in their entire lives because they're 30 years old and the conflict has been going on for 4 decades. So just think about that for a second. So when you really understand, they don't know what people. When we arrived there in Afghanistan last week, the day I arrived, there were 23 rockets fired into Kabul. The next day, there were 2 blasts. The day after, there was a blast in the market. That's just near where I was. That's not the rest of the country as well, which also experiences every single day. So how are people supposed to start their life, to rebuild their lives when this is happening around them? How are kids supposed to? That's why it's got the largest human trafficking, sex trafficking. So when you think about that, it blows your mind to understand that, Inayat.
Well, I must say, you've actually just blown my mind with these stats alone, and it's something that we don't think about, Hafiz Imran. And looking at Afghanistan, as I said, it's abject poverty, but also the terrain. It's not an easy country to live in, and you must have experienced that firsthand as well, in terms of just moving around and trying to be mobile around the various parts of the country.
And it's important you bring that up because, we think about poverty and we think, oh, okay, well, let's all go out and give people some food or something, which is a fair point. It's a logical thought. When you get to Afghanistan and Kabul and you realize that it's so mountainous the area, that number one is people every single day, so they cannot get water to the top of the mountains. People live on the mountains. So the
I think
places, obviously. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, yes. Just for a second, we lost you.
Okay. So we don't stay in conspicuous places. We stay in kind of places that are not very visible for the simple reason that the targets of these blasts, etc., are typically, if they know there's a foreigner somewhere there, then it becomes an issue. We have armed guards with us all the time. I cannot go to the bathroom without an armed guard. When we're out, of course. Of the place where we're staying. The place where we're staying is almost like, it's secured like a prison almost. But outside my window, I had this mountain that was covered in snow every morning. Now, from my window, it looks very romantic, like a mountain in Switzerland somewhere, But when you look closely, you realize there are thousands of people who live on those mountains. Those people don't have warmth. They don't have heaters. They don't have food. They don't have clean water. What water do they drink? They drink surface water, which is muddy water, and they drink water from feces. So there's raw feces next to all their dwellings, because where does it go to? There's no sewage systems. So what happens is when the feces settle, and I hate to be so graphic, but this is reality. When the feces settle, the water that sits on the top, they take that water to drink. Now you think about the disease. Now this is on the mountains. Now there's thousands of people there. No heating. This is where children freeze to death. So it might look wonderful from a distance when you see snow-covered mountains. We climb those mountains to meet the people. And I tell you, it's not easy. And they have to do that every single day. That's why when we do boreholes, etc. in Afghanistan, it's so important, because we drill 125 meters into the ground to find fresh water so that these people can drink fresh water. When you meet children who are, and have you ever thought about this? If 48% of the population are under the age of 15, that tells you there's many child-run households. We met a family of 6 siblings where the oldest is 16 and he has to now take care of the family. His youngest is 10 months. The baby's 10 months old. Their parents died 5 months ago. Father died of COVID and the mother was burned to death in front of the children. This is what they witness. Every single day they see this. They see blasts all the time. We meet some people, we ask them, how are you doing? How do you find it living in Afghanistan? And they tell you, well, every single day when they come to work or wherever they are, they meet their friends tell them, it's good to see that you're alive. And that's how they live. Like you're grateful that you saw your friend alive the next day. Just because, they didn't get caught in a blast or something. So yes. No food. I mean, this family, for example, that I was talking about, the 6 siblings, The boy who's 16 goes to school, and after school works, and he earns $1 a day. $1 a day is maybe 15, 16, 17 rand. Okay, you and I can't feed ourselves for one meal. He has to feed 6 siblings for 3 meals with $1 a day. Can you imagine now if someone finds out that these 6 siblings live by themselves? It opens up them for human trafficking, sex trafficking, child abuse. All of this is rife because the ground is fertile for that, unfortunately.
Yes. Now, Hafiz Imran, just looking at obviously AMA and the work that you have done there, and I'm sure you've addressed, obviously you've highlighted a lot of the problems, things like health and also child labor, education, and the like as well. And just in terms of prioritizing the needs in Afghanistan, what are the key issues here as far as AMA is concerned?
First issue right now, this moment, is winterization or winter projects. Why? Because we're experiencing beautiful summer here, alhamdulillah, in South Africa. But there right now, it is freezing cold. We were dressed properly for snow, and yet we were freezing. And those people, especially the kids, don't have shoes or anything. So winter, we go into people's homes, they don't have any warmth, they're freezing. So winter is really, really a priority right now because children will freeze to death on the mountains. So we give them heaters, not electric heaters, these beautiful little stainless steel kind of things where they can actually, it's called winter rescue specifically, and where we actually have, so they can, in the little 4 square meter mud huts, we can have actually like a little like a fireplace almost, which warms the place. We set it up for them. We fit it in with the pipes out of there as well, so the smoke goes outside. All of that kind of stuff. So winter rescue is a massive, massive, massive project right now. Secondly, boreholes, because water. When you give someone water, clean drinking water, you solve multiple aspects of their life. Multiple aspects of their life. So the heaters are used not only for warmth, but they can boil their water. They can start cooking something. And we've been in places where they have absolutely no food. So part of our winter rescue project is not only heaters, we also give some food as well. Then the bakery project. We have a bakery project where you can sponsor, where we have families that will go to a bakery. We have an arrangement with a bakery where they will get 10. Each person in the family will get 2 big pieces of bread, those big pizza, big ones, every single day for a month. So if a family has 5 members, they'll get 10 pieces of bread every single day. If a family has 3 members, they get 6. Now, if you remove hunger from someone's life, if you remove the cold, the freezing to death risk from someone's life, so you give them food, you give them warmth, you give them shelter. Now, Inayat, they can start thinking about other things in life. Because if they don't have food and they're on the brink of starvation, if they don't have warmth and they're brink of freezing to death, and they don't have shelter and they're at risk to the elements, then people do desperate things when they don't have those things. I've met women there, the last trip there, for example, when I was up on the mountain, and you meet a woman who hadn't had food for 4 days. And when you ask her, how do you get food? Because obviously she's alive. Logically, somebody must be feeding her. She must be getting food somewhere. And I asked, how do you get food currently? And she said, well, a soldier from the bottom of the mountain comes up every few days to bring some food. So I thought, okay, well, that's nice of the soldier to do that. Then you find out after probing some more that the soldier doesn't do it because he's a noble person. He does it because he comes and abuses her every few days. Now you tell me, I know people don't like to hear these things, but that's what happens. When a woman is in a 4 square meter mud place on a mountain and someone brings her food, and because she's got kids, she wants to feed her kids, she accepts the food in exchange for favors. So her dignity is already destroyed because she's just begging for food, and now we destroy her further? This is reality. So that's why the Winter Rescue Project is important. Give food, warmth, shelter. Get someone protected. Now they can start thinking about building their lives.
Exactly. And I think, Hafiz Imran, I know we are running a bit over time, but, sometimes these things need to be said the way they need to be said. And there is no other way for saying it, for reality to actually hit home, and for us to obviously truly appreciate what the people of Afghanistan have been going through in the last 40 years or so.
Absolutely. We visited hospitals. We support a couple of hospitals there with some stuff as well. One of the hospitals, Indira Gandhi Hospital, we visited again twice, last year and this year. And when I was there this time, 80% of the medical staff tested positive for COVID. They have no masks, they have no PPE, but they still operate. So we were in that space. I mean, you can imagine how terrifying it was for us to be in that space, but they're there all the time. We were in the birth hospital the next night, and we found, it's a female hospital for birth, etc., etc. And so we found two women on the same bed, and because they got not enough beds. So we thought, okay, well, what's the issue? The one woman has a vaginal bleeding disease, a vaginal bleeding illness. The next woman on the same bed, one small bed, has hepatitis C. Both of them, because there's not enough beds. That cannot be healthy in anybody's books. Then at the other hospital, the Indira Gandhi hospital, we found a burn victim. Now here's the Inayat, I want to finish on this. Yes, children can burn. What I mean by that, don't get me wrong. Yours and my kids, Allah protect them, of course. But you could be anywhere in the world, and your child could fall over a heater, or they could burn themselves touching a stove. These are accidents that can happen to anyone, anywhere in the world. It's not dependent on the nature of the country. It just can happen to anybody. But, and that's almost understandable. What I mean by understandable, I mean it can happen. It's an accident. But when a child burns because of rockets, this one child, one of the rockets fell on their home. Many people died. This child was burned from head to toe, various parts of his body. 13-year-old. His name is Radullah. Radullah was burned from head to toe because of rockets. That is unacceptable. And this child, in that hospital, they don't have what they call electric dermatome. They don't have an electric dermatome, which is the device that helps them to harvest the skin for skin grafts. So the doctor there uses a hand knife to harvest the skin by hand from the child's body to do skin grafts. That's the circumstance under which they operate. That's why I think it's important for us to support projects in Afghanistan.
Well, certainly, and all these projects, obviously, you have highlighted on your website, and for people obviously wanting to contribute, they can go onto your website and, they'll have all the information they require.
Absolutely, 100%. And I want to thank Salam Media and thank all the listeners as well for the incredible support we receive through the listeners. And of course, of Salam Media always. And may Allah bless them abundantly, grant them barakah. And during this festive time, so to speak, in South Africa, holiday time, enjoy your families. Yes, Allah's given you barakah, enjoy it. But remember that there are people right now, right this moment, in another part of the world, being abused, dying of hunger, starvation, cold, and we have a responsibility to help a fellow human being.
Well, Hafiz Imran, Jazakallah for that, and Allah accept, Allah reward you and everyone else that's associated with AMA in all the wonderful work that you are doing, not only in Afghanistan, but in many other parts around the world and locally as well. And Allah grant you the highest of rewards, inshallah. And Jazakallah as always for coming on. And I think this report, obviously, a very, very valuable insight into Afghanistan and where the country is at this point in time. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran, Inayat. Allah bless you. Allah bless Salam Media. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hafiz Imraan Choonara, CEO of Africa Muslim Agency, with his report back. And yes, we have overrun slightly on time this morning, but I think it was absolutely necessary to get the gist and to get an idea as to what Hafiz Imraan Choonara wanted to convey to us this morning. The time is just gone 6 minutes past 10 a.m. It's time for me to sign off. So from myself and the rest of the team at Salam Media, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
This Juz a Day recitation is brought to you by
Freedom Stationery, education for the nation. For the Isali Thawab of Marhum Ismail and Zubaydah Muhammad of Azadville. By Unity Food Products, manufacturers of Helios Pure Sunflower Oil and Helios